Here we are again at another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels, and welcome, by all means welcome. I am going to show you today how to make something that I bet you didn't think you could make in a van. It is chicken fettuccine Alfredo, and it is one of my favorite dishes whenever I have the luxury of going to an Olive Garden. But that hasn't happened in a long time, so I'm going to show you how to make it on a simple butane stove. So come on along and join me while we have some delicious chicken fettuccine Alfredo. Alright, for the ingredients, actually I should have said chicken fettuccine Alfredo with mushrooms. I like to add mushrooms to my chicken fettuccine Alfredo. Of course, you're going to need chicken. Then you're going to need cream, which I have in the refrigerator and I'll be taking out in a second. You're going to need mushrooms. You're going to need Parmesan cheese. Now, if you notice, I have the shredded Parmesan cheese, which I shredded myself. I really strongly recommend that when you're making this dish, you shred your own Parmesan cheese. I've tried making it with the pre-shredded cheese and it just doesn't melt the same. I guess they put some type of ingredients in it to preserve it, or I'm not sure what they put all in it, but it just does not come out the way shredding it yourself does. In addition to the Parmesan cheese, I like to add a little bit of Philadelphia cream cheese, and for this particular dish I like the chive and onion. As far as the seasonings that you're going to use, when I do my noodles, I like to use a little bit of chicken bouillon in them to give it a little bit of flavor. I also like to put a little bit of grapeseed oil in it when it's boiling. Now, as far as the other seasonings and flavorings, I've got very finely chopped onions, fresh rosemary. If you don't have fresh rosemary, you can use rosemary in the jar. I have butter, minced garlic, and this isn't fresh minced garlic. I prefer fresh minced garlic, but this will do fine, as I didn't have any fresh minced garlic. I ran out. And I do have some fresh parsley, but if you don't have that, I'll show you here. You can also use just the regular parsley, the dry parsley. That will do just fine. And I add about a teaspoonful of sugar. As those of you who've been following me along know, I like to add maybe just a teaspoon, a little smidge of sugar, not to sweeten it, but it just brings all that taste and flavorings. It just pulls them all together. But that's up to you. You don't have to add the sugar. So, and then of course I use the typical, or for me typical, onion powder, garlic powder, and black pepper. Now if you want to get fancy smanchy, you can use white pepper, but I didn't have any white pepper today, so I'm just using black pepper. And that's pretty much it. So what do you say? Why don't we get started? Okay, we're getting started here. I've got a couple tablespoons of butter here in my pot, and I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so of grapeseed oil. I like mixing the butter and the oil. It seems the butter doesn't burn as much when you do that, and also you get the flavor of the butter here. So I'm going to heat that up just a little bit, and then I'm going to have that kind of on low, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my onions here and saute them. And I'm going to saute them. I'm going to wait a little bit to add my garlic because I don't want it to burn. Spread that around there. And I'm going to let that go about probably, I would say, probably about maybe 3-4 minutes. We'll just let that get good, and you'll see it sizzling and starting to turn brown on you. And once that happens, starts to, we'll come back in a couple minutes when this is browned. Okay, I think those onions are done enough. I'm going to add my garlic now. I've got about 2 tablespoons of garlic. I really like lots of garlic in this dish. And I'm also going to add my fresh rosemary. And again, if you don't have fresh rosemary, that's not a problem. Just use what you have. I'm going to turn this way down here. You can add your garlic now, or you can add it later. Sometimes I add it later because I don't like the garlic to get scorched. But I like to infuse that garlic flavor in my chicken. And now I'm going to add my chicken. I have about 1 pound of chicken that you can see I've already seasoned some. I haven't seasoned it too much because I've got a lot of salt in the cheeses. So you can test it as you go. So I'm going to add the chicken here. And I like my chicken to be in strips. So, and I know a lot of people for this dish, for chicken fettuccine, they use chicken breast, but I prefer chicken thighs. I just think they're more flavorful. Oops, it looks like our gas has gone out here. Let me turn this back on here. I turned it down a little too low on these butane stoves. If you turn them too low, they'll go out. But I'm going to turn this down pretty low because I don't want my garlic to burn. I think, you know what? I think I'm going to tell you to do something different than I just did here. I think I'm going to tell you go ahead and saute your onions, then add your rosemary, and wait until after you do your chicken when you're adding your mushrooms to do your garlic. So I'll put that in the instructions. Because the garlic, I don't know, you have to watch it so closely to make sure it doesn't scorch. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to let that chicken cook up there, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. After that gets, probably about 3 or 4 minutes on each side because it's in strips, so it doesn't take that long. I have probably, I don't know, I have about 2 to 3 chicken thighs here, and just use however many you want depending on how many people you're going to be serving or how many meals you want to make out of this. So we'll come back in a few minutes when this is all browned. What I've done here is I've removed the chicken, and I'm just going to let it rest, let all the flavors just really marinate in there really well. I'm going to put that to the side for right now, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on back, turn my fire back on, and I'm going to add the mushrooms. And I'm going to let my mushrooms saute for probably 3 or 4 minutes before I do the rest of the ingredients. I don't think I mentioned about, and you know what, I think I need to add a little more butter to this. Maybe another tablespoon or so of butter. This is a very rich dish. Now I'm making it today with heavy whipping cream. You can use half and half, that will be fine. Or you could even, if you don't have access to that, you could even use evaporated milk, evaporated canned milk. But I wouldn't recommend using it with just plain milk. All right, that is going to get those good and hear that sizzling. That delicious butter, savory butter, and all the rosemary and the flavor from the chicken getting into my mushrooms here. Well, I don't want to overdo the mushrooms, so I'm going to do it for about a minute or so, a minute or two, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to add my cream. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. And I want to do it kind of on low when I add my cream because I don't want to burn my cream, that's for sure. I'm adding about 2 cups of cream here. Slowly adding this here. I am going to change hands here so you can get a better view, more open view. Okay, we've got all our cream here. Oh, this is rich and delicious. And then I'm going to just give that a good stir. Get it all stirred up here. And I've got this on low now because I don't want it to be too hot when I'm... Now, what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to start adding my grated Parmesan cheese. A little at a time. Get it kind of mixed in here so that I can get it good and melted in here. Now you see how that's melting right down? Not only do I have a good quality of cheese, but I also grated it by hand instead of the pre-packaged. I'm going to add the rest of my cheese here. And I'm going to let this get good and heated and melted. Get all that juice from the bottom, the scrapings from the bottom from that chicken. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about maybe a half a cup of this cream cheese, and then I'll taste it after I've melted it and see if I need any more or not. Okay, here we go. Let this get good and, oops, turn this down a little bit, it's a little too high. Right over kind of a low heat here. You do not, again, I can't emphasize enough, you don't want to scorch your cream. And I'm going to let this go for a good maybe 6 minutes, but I'm going to be stirring it regularly. So we'll come back in a few minutes and we'll sample this and see if it's ready to add the chicken yet. Oh, you know what? I do think now I'm going to add some pepper. I'm going to add the pepper at this point. What the heck? Okay, adding my pepper. All right, and let that go ahead and let that just simmer with me stirring it, and we'll come back. I went ahead in the break just here. I added some Badila seasoning because it needed a little more kick, and about maybe a teaspoon, yeah, about a teaspoon, and that just really made it perfect. And I think it does need still a little bit more pepper. But let's go ahead and add our chicken back in here. Now the juices have all rested and ooh, all the flavor is sopped in there. We'll add our chicken back and let this just marinate in there for a couple of minutes. And then we're going to go ahead now and we're going to add our noodles. I used about half a package of noodles for this amount. Oops, let me turn this around so you can see how this is going to go. I'm going to add my noodles here. Oops. Don't do what I just did. You should probably add them a few at a time, but I just wasn't paying that much attention. So we're going to go ahead and get that mixed up here. Good. Mixed up here. Your chicken, your mushrooms, your rosemary, your cream, and the butter on the garlic. I think this is going to be a winner. I'm going to mix this up a little bit more, and then I think I can still add the rest of my noodles here. Let me go ahead and add the rest of my noodles. Now this will make several meals with a nice salad on the side. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to get this all mixed up, and then we're going to sample it in just a moment. So hold on, don't go away. I'll be right back. You know, it's a good thing I have a camera person here, because he reminded me, Carol, you didn't put your sugar in. So he's right, I didn't. So I'm just going to add a teensy little bit, maybe a half teaspoon, not quite. Not enough. I don't want it sweet. I just want it to bring all the seasonings together. So let me add my sugar here. Just a little bit, but you can leave it out. You taste it and you see what you think. And you can add whatever seasonings you want. But this is just how I make mine. All right. All right. We're going to get to that best part here now that I was reminded to add the sugar. Now we're going to go back and we're going to come in and taste it. Go in for the taste. I'll be right back. I just want to show you what this looks like, the completed dish. You may notice it has some green in it, because that's because I added the parsley. I forgot to put in too. But anyhow, this is how it looks when it's finished. And I am going to take a and see how this turned out. Let me take off my gloves. I don't need gloves to sample this in. Let me just try this. This is so, I wish you could smell the aroma and the fragrance of the rosemary. It just, oh my goodness, it's just fragrant. This is good. This is really good. Excuse me. The mushrooms are just crunchy enough, not crunchy, but how can I say, the texture is thick enough. They're not soggy. They're flavorful. That little bit of sugar added that zest to it. Or rather, not zest, but it pulled all the flavors together. The cream cheese makes it so rich and creamy. I don't know if I mentioned it. I may have mentioned it, I may not have. But the strips of chicken that I cut up, I did season them well before cooking them. So I did season them, you know, with garlic powder, onion powder, seasoned salt, Badila, of course, and a little sea salt. So the chicken should be very well seasoned before you cook it. So when you add it in, it adds all that flavor. What can I say? Another delicious episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. You can cook like a gourmet chef in a van, believe it or not, on a butane stove. And if you come along, I'm going to show you so many other things that you can cook, and with guest chefs. I know I keep saying that, but it is coming. It will be here soon. So by all means, share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone, tell people walking down the street to watch Glorious Life on Wheels. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. May your journey be filled with joy and blessings. Until next Thursday, make sure like, subscribe, and comment. See you then, friends. Bye.